everyone, my name is Andy Aguero, and today I'm going to be talking to you about deworming your horses. So, first question we got to ask is, how does your horse get worms? Well, a horse can get worms from being turned out with other horses who are infected with worms, as well as being turned out into a contaminated pasture. So as your horse is grazing, it can consume eggs and larvae that have mixed in with the grass that your horse is consuming from infected manure. So, what kind of worms are we likely to see? So there are 4 common types of worms. We have first, strongyles, which are blood and red worms, and the eggs and larvae are consumed and they live inside of the horse's intestines. So the second kind of worms that we most commonly see are ascarids, which are also known as roundworms, and the eggs and the larvae are ingested. So these type of worms are more common in younger horses, and they get a large infestation of these can cause weight loss, stunted growth, rough hair coat, and it can ultimately lead to colic. So the third type of worm that we have are tapeworms, and the tapeworms are ingested by mites, which are then ingested by horses, and they end up going inside the horse, and they can cause intestinal obstructions in the horse's intestines. And the horse's intestines can even rupture from the inflammation of the worms. So the fourth kind of parasite that we can find inside of a horse are bots. So bot flies will lay their eggs on the legs of the horses, and as the horse grooms itself, the saliva from the horse's mouth will loosen up the eggs, and then they will ingest the eggs. And so the larvae from the eggs then attach to the stomach, and they can cause digestion issues. Alright, so now that we've talked about the different types of parasites, now we can talk about how to get rid of them. So there are several ways to manage parasites, and today I will be talking about a medicinal approach, also known as dewormers. So there are 4 classes of dewormers. The first class that I'm going to talk about are benzimidazoles. So these interfere with the worm's metabolism, so it will cause them to have a slow death. And these tend to work well against ascarids. And some examples of these are fenbendazole and oxybendazole. So the second class that we have are parentals, and these affect the worms between the muscle and the nerve cells, and they die much quicker than they would with a benzimidazole. So a high dose of these can be very effective against tapeworms. So because parentals do not penetrate the intestinal wall, resistance can be built against these very quickly. So an example of these is strongid. So the last class that we have is macrocyclic lactones. So these block nerve transmissions which paralyze the worms to kill them, and ivermectin and moxidectin are common in this class, and they are most commonly used in the horse industry. So in the last class we have are praziquantels, and these only kill tapeworms. So when do we need to deworm? So you should deworm if eggs, larvae, or worms are present, and you should first do a fecal egg count to determine the type of parasite that you're working with, as well as how much you're dealing with. It's also important to note that over deworming, so deworming when unnecessary, it can lead to resistance to the medicines from the parasites. And for a final note, I'd like to advise you to always consult with your local veterinarian in order to come up with a good parasite managing plan. So come up with a good program of like what kind of dewormer you're going to use, how often you're going to use it, and it's just important to have a program. Thank you for watching.